Kia ora there family, and welcome back to the Recreating Impact series. For today, we're going to be looking at one of gaming's most iconic female characters in all of fighting games and gaming in general. And be sure to show her all of your respect, because her fury will prove fatal if you underestimate this queen of fighters. This is Recreating Impact, recreating Mai SHIRANUI. Let's do it. (1991's Fatal Fury would prove to be a massive success for SNK, success that would be immediately followed in the following year of 1992 with Fatal Fury 2, more recognized by its more popular version, Fatal Fury Special in 1993. Interestingly though, while I wasn't able to find the concept art of this, I was able to find articles by Neo Geo Freak that shows that Mai was originally meant to be a male character in early concept arts. Her moveset was originally meant to be for a pyrotechnic male ninja character, but the team felt they needed to shift towards more idol-focused type character for Mai SHIRANUI, and thus Mai was made into a female ninja, which is really hilarious because she was the original idol character before Athena. How about that? One thing that is pretty easy to find though is quotes from the art team stating that Mai was a pretty difficult character to animate in Fatal Fury. Because of her assets, this gave the team quite the challenge, making her look fluent and appealing as possible. And obviously, as you can tell, it worked. Another fun fact going back to the idol stuff, Mai SHIRANUI was actually modeled after two popular idols back in the 90s. The first one she was modeled after, which was the influence for her top half, was Fumi Hosokawa. I hope I pronounced that right. And for her bottom half was Ai Ijima. Wow. Two perfect women making a perfect female character. You know what? That makes sense. It's true what they say. Fiction really does stem from reality. Her fiery animations, combined with her literal fiery yet gentle and sometimes cheeky personality, made Mai SHIRANUI an instant fan favorite, even amongst the art team themselves. Series designer Shin Kiro stated in a comment that she was the most difficult character to illustrate for, and at one point he thought she was gonna burst out of her costume. Honestly, I think we all thought that. So she very quickly climbed the ladder to meet Chun-Li for most influential female characters in fighting / video games, thanks largely to not just her alluring figure, but also her equally alluring personality, which some people may seem as coming across as being a little vain, but that's just Mai being, again, a very cheeky person. While she does admire any kind of beauty and she'll outright call someone handsome or beautiful, she will then quickly remark saying, you're not as beautiful as my fiance Andy. Speaking of which,
you finally returned to Japan and you never even called me, you insensitive brute! What kind of man are you? Gone for a whole year without even telling your fiance? How could you?
What?
And Mai wonders why he never called. After the unfortunate passing of her grandfather, Hanzo SHIRANUI, Mai was left in the hands of Master Jubei, who was a close friend of Tung Fu, the master who trained both Andy and Terry Bogard. Anky's Howard. She was introduced to Andy first, then Terry second. Though the order of how she met them doesn't really matter, because ever since laying eyes on Andy, she was completely obsessed with him, and has made it her life's mission to make Andy Bogard her husband, and in turn making herself Mrs. Bogard. Whether she's torturing him with marriage proposals, or just being a pain in the ass, even to the point where he even sometimes, well, does this, she doesn't seem to mind. In fact,
That bully. There was no need for him to hit me so hard. Then again, that's what I love about him. What a man!
Yeah. While the many iterations of Mai in Fatal Fury are dramatically different to her King of Fighters counterparts, one thing is consistent between all the versions. They all have a type of space control / rushdown playstyle, where she also uses her ninja trickery in order to throw off the opponent and get in close. A playstyle that is now more commonly known as Whippity Zippity. A ridiculous yet very accurate description of Mai's playstyle. When she's not controlling the mid and long range with her fan, Kachou-sen, a projectile with varying speeds, she can quickly move around the arena and the opponent with Musabi Mai, as well as move in close with Shinobi Bachi, also effective during a combo. And I gotta tell you, Fano, I did not play Mai at all prior to this video. I had no clue how to do her combos or anything. It wasn't until getting around to making this video, I actually sat down to properly learn the character. And I'll tell you this, she's pretty damn fun. So good job, SNK. You made me learn another character that I had no intention of playing. I always liked her character throughout the stories and all that, and she definitely was fun to watch. But for some reason or another, I just never gravitated towards playing her. But I'm glad that's changed now. Because I'll tell you this, thanks to all this, she's now one of my mains in King of Fighters. So yeah. Also, while she can create and manipulate her own fire, flames made by someone else, she can still be hurt by that. So she can't pull a Natsu from Fairy Tail and absorb another person's fire. And if she could, that would make her broken, but you know, balance and shit. Speaking of balance, many people will look at her and wonder, how the hell can she maintain her balance? Remember, my good people, fiction is an extension of reality, and that fiction is closer to reality than you realize. And remember, in reality, ninjas were basically just guns for hire. Or knives for hire, or swords for hire. Well, anyway, the point is, ninjas back in the day were mercenaries, and female ninjas were no different. But there was one key difference, and that of course was their sex appeal. While a male ninja was trained to strike their target from the shadows, the female ninja had the advantage of being able to hide in plain sight. Because they were women, they weren't viewed the same as a man. And oddly enough, it was being a woman that gave them that advantage and made them even more dangerous. They were beautiful. You could easily be deceived if you were just a rich, filthy bastard. Or even a rich, filthy woman. Who knows? There might have been some of those, but it was never known. But here's what I do know. Not only does Mai keep up the aesthetic of a traditional Japanese ninja, but she also is the traditional and ideal Japanese beauty. What keeps her from fully being a Japanese beauty, however, is...
I'm officially pissed! I'll make sure that next time Andy and I enter the KOF tournament together! That's it. I'm just gonna bitch and moan until he agrees!
Yikes. She really loves Andy, doesn't she? Lucky bastard. Winner!
Yes! Japan's best! どうしたの？かかってらっしゃい。よっ！日本一！知らぬいまい参ります！
When it was rumored that Mai was going to be a guest character in the Dead or Alive series, many people, myself included, honestly thought this was a joke, because in the early versions of Dead or Alive, the PC modders already got to work making an alternate costume for the female ninja characters to make them look like Mai SHIRANUI. Next thing you know, in 2016, in order to promote not just the latest update for DOA 5, but also to promote the King of Fighters 14, SNK and Team Ninja announced a collaboration which would put Mai SHIRANUI in the Dead or Alive scene. Honestly, this game is the perfect setting for Mai SHIRANUI. This collaboration worked out so well that now newcomers mistake Mai SHIRANUI for being a DOA character rather than a KOF character. And that's because, at the time, there were two major factors. The first one is exposure. While the King of Fighters definitely had a larger legacy, Dead or Alive had much bigger mainstream exposure, simply because of just how KOF was. The second factor is again part of the exposure. Because Mai SHIRANUI got more exposure in the Dead or Alive series, while it definitely did give people an incentive to try the King of Fighters 14, when they did, they were surprised to see that Mai looks better as a guest in Dead or Alive than she does in her own mainline series. Huh, why does that sound familiar? Speaking of familiarities, a year ago I praised Namco for recreating Geese flawlessly in Tekken 7, and I'm happy to report to you all again that Mai SHIRANUI in the DOA games is immaculate. For starters, let's talk about Mai's design in both DOA 5 and DOA 6. I love both of these designs. With Dead or Alive 5, they took her design from the older King of Fighters games, and for those of you who have been playing the King of Fighters 2002 that's the one that is used in DOA 5. And then for DOA 6, similar to Geese Howard in Tekken 7, they recreated her King of Fighters 14 design, which you again see in King of Fighters 15, which looks awesome. And it wasn't just her looks either. Team Ninja did a damn good job bringing over Mai's personality into this game, which is on full display through her moveset, and they also got Mai's current voice actor, Ami Koshimizu. I hope I pronounced that right. I mean, for fuck's sake, they even went as far as to include Mai's love of Andy in this game. He will never escape. So gameplay wise, I'm going to focus on Mai in Dead or Alive 6. I did try to go back to DOA 5 to play her in that game, but I hadn't paid for her in that game. I only purchased her in DOA 6, and at the time I tried to look on the PS Network, I think she got double delisted, so I unfortunately wasn't able to play Mai in DOA 5. But seeing as how I'm comparing Mai mainly to KOF 14 and 15, I'd say focusing on Mai in DOA 6 is pretty okay. And actually no, it's more than pretty okay, she looks bloody beautiful in motion. The way her specials translate into DOA works really bloody well. The way they're incorporated into combos and how you're able to do linkers into special move cancels, that right there is an attention to detail I can truly appreciate. It really does make Mai feel like she's a Fatal Fury character in a Dead or Alive game. However, this is gonna be a bit of a nitpick for me at the moment, and I know I picked her apart for this last year in my Geese video, but I need to reiterate slightly here. I do wish that they could have incorporated some of her max mode shenanigans in this game. I mean, given the fact that the break blow gauge kind of functions similar to super gauges in other fighting games, I do think that could have been incorporated to include some of Mai's max mode stuff. But what she got outside of that, I'm still happy with either way. Believe me when I say all of that is a very lengthy but minor nitpick. Extremely minor. Once you start playing Mai and you do the other stuff she's really good at, that's awesome. Yeah, she may feel slightly more like a DOA character than she does a Fatal Fury character, but damn, at least you still get the best of both worlds. Mai in the DOA engine using her special moves and her super moves, that is pretty damn sweet. And the way they were able to change her level 3 and level 2, all that stuff, into regular moves, That's an attention to detail that I loved a lot. And honestly, it makes her very fun in the game, giving her combo routes and all of that, which the other DOA characters don't have access to. So that makes me forgive that she doesn't have her max mode stuff. And then again, if she did, for as difficult as it would be to execute, that would prove to be a bit of a problem with the balancing. But speaking of things execution wise, her normal moves, despite that this game only has one punch and one kick button, I love how they were able to use almost every button on the controller to transfer her normal moves into DOA. Sometimes using punch and kick together to do some heavy kicks or heavy punches or even some special throws, as well as the hold button and the kick button for sweeps, and the fact that they look awesome when her back is turned. That really does make me appreciate the level of detail that the team put into Mai. Seriously, it just looks so damn smooth and beautiful. Another thing I really enjoyed a lot is the trials that Mai has in DOA. Not necessarily the trials themselves, but I just love that how by default, the trials position you near danger zones, and I love using that to come up with my own combo shits. And so far, this is the best I can do. This is the stage with the exploding cars. And then King of Fighters 15 comes along and gives us this. Fucking jeez, it's only a trial. Settle yourself down a bit, Mai. Ah, who am I kidding? Asking Mai to settle down is like asking a dog to not wag its tail when it's happy. And let's be honest, we can't help it that Mai can figuratively and very literally light the place up on fire. Mai SHIRANUI is definitely a woman with a wild side. Also, little fun fact, Mai's favorite genre of music is actually heavy metal. Huh. No wonder her character theme has an electric guitar. One of the interesting things I took notice of is that Mai's individual character music, which has the electric guitar to show her fondness for heavy metal, is cleverly left out whenever she's involved with a team, like Team Woman Fighters or Team Superheroine, which shows that Mai will put her teammates above herself. And while Mai's theme misses the electric guitar aspect in her Dead or Alive 6 rendition, it does still keep her wild side by having the track sound like more of a house techno type beat. And honestly, it works really well, though to me it does kinda sound like a Tekken theme. But hey, not a complaint, just an observation. And now, to finish this off, the last thing I want to talk about is Mai's absence from the King of Fighters 12. For those of you who don't know, the King of Fighters 12 is, well, for lack of a better term, not the best King of Fighters game. The King of Fighters 12 did so poorly that rather than making the next King of Fighters, say King of Fighters 12 Dream Match, they instead skipped over that entirely and went immediately onto King of Fighters 13. Which made up for a lot of the missteps that the King of Fighters 12 made. One of those missteps was leaving Mai SHIRANUI out of the main roster, which threw quite a lot of people off because Mai's likeness was heavily used in the advertising and the build-up to the game. In later interviews, it was revealed that characters like Mai were left out of the game simply because the game's new animation style was taking up too much time and they simply could not finish her and other characters on time for the full release of King of Fighters 12. Basically what they did is they fully animated every single character in 3D, then they would rotoscope around those characters and create entirely new digitized 2D sprites to make them look smooth and fluid. Basically, they used 3D to make the best 2D animation they possibly could. And, well, as you can imagine, doing that for Mai was pretty difficult. However, this definitely paid off in the King of Fighters 13 when Mai made her return, and sorry, ow, my back. Ugh. I mean, fucking hell. I mean, seriously, there's having confidence and then there's just showing off. And, geez, not only was Mai showing off, but so was SNK. There's good animation and then there's this. Fucking jeez. Never before has Mai had a literal bounce in her step. And if you want the game that perfectly captures that, well, look no further than the King of Fighters 13. Fucking hell. But no, in all seriousness, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. I hope I was able to explain well enough why Mai SHIRANUI is such a great character, both inside and outside, and why she is a female character who is not only just really awesome, but is quite influential, and there's a reason why so many cosplayers have cosplayed as Mai SHIRANUI. She's a fun character with a fun personality, and honestly, I really hope Mai sticks around and is never left out of a future KOF game ever again. Remember quite a while ago when people did the whole no Mai, no buy, which spawned from the King of Fighters 12? Well, allow me to end this video by saying this: no Queen of Fighters, no King of Fighters. Heh, remember that one, people. This has been Recreating Impact, recreating Mai SHIRANUI. If you stuck around till the end, I highly appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time, whānau. Ka kite.